Welcome,
Hi, everyone.
everybody.
Oh, do you want to go first? I can, you could do. Okay. Hi, everyone. Welcome to Hustle and Heart. We have a very special guest here today, Tamar. Tamar and I know each other for quite some time. We met at an event, but we also discovered we're part of a group together called Wednesday Women. Tamar, how about you introduce yourself?
Thank you so much, ladies, for having me. I've been following your podcast for a while, and it is the one that I really wanted to be. So thanks for having me. And I'm Tamar Gill, a CEO and founder of the company called eCore, and we help go-to-market teams improve the quality of their data so they can reach right people with the right messaging.
That's
Super
great.
important. That's a super important mission for sure, especially now with there's so much noise and there's so many different sources that people can cite. So it's important for people to know which sources to trust and to build their expertise from for their organization. So really excited to have you on. And you've got quite the journey and quite the bio that we would love for you to also share some of your what has your personal and professional bio to introduce our audience to your work.
Yeah, absolutely. So my it's very mixed, right? My experience. I come with a nonprofit background. My entire life, while I lived in Georgia, I worked for nonprofit organizations, and I was seeing the difference we made in people's life daily. So after I moved to the US, I became stay-home parent that was looking for a job from home so I could be present with my children and the same time, grow professionally and contribute to my family income, which was pretty challenging at that time. So after a while of searching, I finally found something, the California startup, where I started on a lowest level job and I climbed up to the executive level. And that's when I left that company. I had that in mind, that I had two principles in mind. One was, peak customers, of course, and the data to give people the right data. So our, inboxes doesn't get filled with junk that it is most of the time. And the second one was give opportunities to working parents who want to be at home with their children but still grow. So that's my mission for 6 years now.
That's amazing. That's really good. I like that you touched upon like the nonprofit piece. Walk us through a little bit more about your journey there. Like, what did that work teach you? What did you discover? What kind of people, you met there? And then how does that impact your work now? Because you have your own business and you're doing so many things now. So how does that, translate here?
So that literally shaped who I am today, the nonprofit work that I was doing. Again, the country of Georgia, we're talking in, late 90s, early 2000, was not in a very good place. First, we started with humanitarian aid, assisting, mostly remote communities with aid. But later on, we shifted, and instead of, giving people the fish, we're like, we need to teach them fishing. So then we shifted and we changed our projects into helping them like start small businesses, improve the infrastructure, the education, support, women in getting better education, because we've had a lot of communities there where girls were not even allowed to go to school or learn. So we started slowly making these little changes, and seeing impact is what matters the most, right? So I was seeing literally impact, like one girl at a time, one business at a time. And when I say infrastructure, now imagine you have to commute like 2 miles to get drinking water. Like, can you imagine that? And there are still a lot of communities like that. So we would help them build a well near them where they would not have to commute 2 miles and they would commute like quarter mile, for example, right? Those are all really huge changes. So that really shaped to who I am today. And everything I do through my business is related that I want to be helpful. I want to bring value to every client I serve. And that's what like my bootstrapping is allowing me to do. For 6 years, we're going strong on our revenue and we're building strong. But if I'm thinking that if I've had some outside funding, I probably wouldn't be able to fulfill that mission that well.
Hmm, that's
That is
interesting.
awesome. Yeah, no, and I think you speak about the capacity to have that social capacity. That infrastructure is so important for people to be able to then engage in entrepreneurship, into scaling some of their innovation, commercializing their ideas into the market. Those things are so important. And we often forget that you need to provide the resources and the capacity for people to really thrive and flourish. And, we speak a lot about the social framing for how you build enterprise, and it's around adding flexibility, transparency, being the types of talent that you're recruiting are those who would benefit a lot from the flexible work environment because they're raising families, so they have a work schedule and demands on their time that are outside of the 9 to 5 traditional arrangement. Walk us through some of how you are cultivating the people first culture within your organization, especially now. Of course, you're bootstrapping, so you're kind of setting the value, setting the tone, and how does that look like in practice, and how you're coaching and leading your team?
As you are aware, we're a global team. So that makes it even more challenging because we're all in different time zones, right?
Mhm.
And when I mentioned my previous experience, for those 7 years, I was also managing a global team. And that's kind of where I learned. One important thing that when managing global teams, we're forgetting is the culture. We need to understand every single person's culture, where they come from, to understand their behaviors. Sometimes we're quick to jump into, oh my God, look how they responded, or oh my God, look how they acted. But they didn't act wrong. They acted properly within their culture. And because we're lacking the understanding of the culture, we just take it differently. I had the same problem when I came into a new country with a different culture, right? So that really, I started learning, people's culture so I can understand their behaviors. And that really helped me manage the team properly. Yes, we are in different time zone. Yes, I might message one of my team members on Saturday something, but then I'll add, this doesn't have to be done on the weekend, work on it on Monday. And I'm messaging because I'm as a founder, I might have that time on Saturday to work and I remember something and I want to make sure that I properly explain it to my team member. But that message that says, you can work on it on Monday, I'm acknowledging that, everyone needs to rest on the weekend and I need them rested on the weekend so they can fully, recharged on Monday. So yes, there are a lot of challenges when you deal with global team, but once you understand how people act, think, and operate, it becomes easier to manage them. And of course, appreciation. I appreciate every team member I have on the team. One of the things is flexibility. So I do want to be flexible. If someone cannot work on Thursday, but they choose to work on Saturday, that's okay. So that's the flexibility, right? That's the flexibility I needed because what if, school calls come and pick up your child? And we all know that happens a lot. Or there is a snow day, or there is a this day and that day, and you have to call off work, right? In the flexible environment, you don't need to call off work, right? I can come and do that later. Right now, I can focus on the family or any other urgent matter that requires my attention.
That's great. I love that you touched upon like the family life and the work life balance right there. I'm curious to understand when you were trying to build a career in the US, what was like the hardest part for you in terms of like job search, or was it like, like you said, the work life balance, because you're now trying to integrate that into what you're doing? Like, what was the toughest part of your career when you were trying to build it? Because you came from a completely different country. What are some of those challenges and do you see that still happening?
That's a very like sensitive question, right? Because it kind of takes me back what it was, and it was rough. The first that comes to my mind is it was rough. No, why was it rough? Because I've had my career in Georgia that's built. I was on the leadership team of the non-profit or organizations, the very reputable ones. I've had my entire family there, my mother, my sisters, my nieces, nephews, my friends, and they were all part of my everyday life. Like my house was always filled with people, when I was at home, of course, after work, it was always filled with people nonstop. And now imagine I have to leave everything behind and come and build a family. So that's the reason I came, right? I came here to build a family with my husband because, we fell in love and we decided that we should get married. So I leave everything behind, come starting building family here. And what made it easy for me was when I came, I had two stepchildren that I became stepmother to. So I have two little stepchildren, and I was also looking forward to becoming a mother. And, 9 months after arrival, I'm a mother, and I'm taking that little break from everything and shifting my mindset to it's okay to take a break from the career. It's okay to take a break from the family. I have the opportunity to travel and visit them often, or they can visit me, which is more challenging, of course, than visiting because the US visa is not that easy. Um, so I had to like literally every day work on myself to change that mindset, right? And then, during pregnancy, I was like, this is a good time not to work because I was not the best one. And then after I had my daughter, I started looking for remote opportunities. At that time, that was like forget about it. So I got few projects from my husband's work, and that was like data cleanup project. At that time, I had no idea I would end up in the data field. So like that's about 18 years ago, I did my first data cleanup projects. I tried to find the job in nonprofit, but I didn't succeed. And then, as I became a parent, something that really stuck with me was I watched a documentary where they interviewed children of two working parents. And these children, they didn't speak about the gifts they're getting, the money their parents are making, and all. They were talking how sad they were because how much they miss their parents. And I'm watching this while I'm pregnant. And now, almost 19 years ago. And it's still in my mind. Like, that got me so much. And I was like, I really need to work because that was part of my identity, right? Because, I learned, I grew, because I was always willing to learn. I need to work, but I need to do it while physically present with my kids. And why I'm saying physically is because you're not always mentally present. So
Mm-hmm.
I want to be there for my kids, and I have accomplished that. Even though I have my children come in and say, Mom, yes, you're sitting here, but you're not here. So I'm still working on that. And they know that if I am in the middle of something and they try to communicate, I won't be able to hear them. So they need to get my attention, like, Mom, can you just pause the work for a minute and talk to us? And then, I pause and then I listen to them. But, when they were younger, I was with them. Yes, I was working remotely all the time, but I was still there with them. I had that opportunity to take them to the doctor's appointment when they needed. And I think I went into many different fields, mixed like everything, work-life balance and my immigration from Georgia. But yeah, there is so much into it.
Yeah. Oh, that's
Of course.
amazing.
Yeah, and Like immigration, my parents, I'm a second generation, well, first, but my parents, I've immigrated from Ukraine with my family, and I saw them starting over and how difficult that was of a journey. Because like your credentials don't matter, your English proficiency is, they're immigrating in their 30s, so their English is a little bit, it still hasn't become the as fluent as it would be of someone who grew up in this country. But like I've seen that challenge firsthand. And my parents were fairly young, so they're managing a young family, setting themselves up in a new country, and trying to reinvent themselves or kind of ground themselves in those professions that they brought with them, and how challenging that was. And a lot of the times it was like, no, you can forget that you're a civil engineer, for instance, because getting those credentials up again will take so much time investment. And like, if you don't have the resources and you have to work part-time and everything, it just adds so much more to your time. But I'd like to speak a little bit about the idea of, we all wear so many different hats. And as you mentioned, you came into the dynamic of a blended family, and then, having three children, and that the reason why you wanted to create a flexible work environment was to be more present with your family, which is wonderful. And I think a lot of organizations need to think along those lines in order to have talent retention. And to attract top talent is you have to create these systems where it allows people to do the school drop-offs and pickups and doctor appointments and not feel the guilt that they're missing out on either of those roles. We are, of course, are going to have trade-offs in everything that we do, whether it's like focusing on work, we can't be as present with our family, but that's okay. I think as mothers, as women, we sometimes put a lot of pressure and a lot of expectations on ourselves that are maybe are too heavy to carry. And our children are quite resilient and wonderful to figure things out on their own at a certain age as well. And seeing us demonstrate certain leadership and ability to exercise boundaries of this, you're important, but there are sometimes periods of time that I have to focus on other things and advance my own priorities as well. And they also see that and replicate that in their own lives, which is wonderful. But I want to ask you, like, in managing being a founder and leading global teams and like of course leading a dynamic family life, how does guilt show up, and how do you also address it within yourself to carry on to practice that grace? What are some of the internal conversations that you have with yourself?
If I watch TV, I'm thinking, is this the right way to use my time, or should I be doing something else? So there are so many new TV shows that I cannot start watching because I'm like, that's going to take so much of my time. I don't have time for that. Well, news is always on, right? When I work, news can be on. But even if seriously just little thing is watching TV, I have that guilt feeling that I could be using that time productively elsewhere. Now, the guilt, the bigger guilt, right? And that's kind of nonstop. However, when I go and say I'm going on vacation, I don't feel guilt there, right? At that time, if I'm vacationing with my children, um, in the mornings while they sleep, I'll work. And in the evenings when we are all winding down after all day of doing things, like I will work. So they have no problem with that. And everybody's happy. My guilt is mostly for my children because I don't think I'm giving enough of myself to them. Yes, as I said, I'm physically present, but am I emotionally, am I mentally? So there was this one year when my daughter gave me a birthday card and it says, "Mom, I love you so much, but I wish you played with me more." And that really like broke my heart. So next few months, I was all in, like, we're gonna play, and I did spend more time playing with her. But as you know, the work keeps piling up, and then you're going back to this same like cycle. Well, also the kids growing up, and they don't need to play with you that much. But currently, I've got a grandchild that is gonna be 4 next month, and I watch him. I used to watch him once or twice a week, but lately once a week. And then the day he's here, again, I've learned all of this, right, on my children. The day that he's here, my calendar is blocked. I cannot have any calls, I cannot have any meetings, because that is his day. Because, well, I realized that he's not going to be 3 again 3 years later when I have more time, right? So now is the time when the kid comes and says, Grandma, wanna play with me? I need to go and play with him or do things with him, right? So I really learned all of that as I was going through, like this guilt and, oh my God, my children need more of my time and this and that. Now I'm like, okay, now this one day, at least, I'm using on my grandchild because my kids are bigger. My youngest is 12. And at the age of 12, they don't really want to hang out that much with, mommy and do things. Though my 18-year-old wants to do that more, so which I'm really excited about. She wants to do more things with me. So it's still a learning process, right? So many years I've been doing this, working from home, and I'm learning and learning and learning. And yes, I constantly have guilt about, am I giving these kids enough attention? And if I'm not doing either and watching TV, always like, how can I use my time better?
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. I think, yeah, boundaries and having those time blocks is so important. So then,
Yeah.
that is the priority, that is the focus for that time. I
Yeah.
agree. I have a 4-year-old myself, and I definitely see how quickly things are moving. The days are long, but the years are very short. They go by in a blink of an eye.
Oh my God, tell me about it.
That's great that we have two moms here. Let's shift a little bit, a little more on your. I love discussing your, personal journey. I know it. Most of our personal journeys, impact the professional uh, things that we are doing. So for me, I had this question. What was like a trigger moment for you when you decided to leave a leadership role and to start your own business? Like, what triggered you to say, okay, I think I'm confident enough to start doing something of my own? What gave you like the confidence to start eCore? And then also, while you're talking about it, can you also walk, because our audience is like spread through all over, can you give our listeners who are not very deep into the GTM world an understanding about what eCore does and what it stands for?
Great. Yes. To start with, what prompted me to start eCore was I realized that I am putting a lot of effort. I'm a very hardworking person. If I'm hired, if I work for you, I'm very loyal and I work, like I put my 120% into it. So doing all of that and seeing that I'm productive, I'm able to bring the customers to my organization, then I'm able to manage these customers really well. Well, I started thinking, why cannot I do it for myself? Yes, it's going to be hard. I knew that. So that was one of the triggers. And it was like in the middle of COVID. It was 2020 when everyone was moving to remote work life, when I already had 7 years experience working remotely and even before that. So I already knew what the remote team management felt like. And I also knew the go to market challenges, which is every year $3.1 trillion is wasted on bad data. And now for go to market, what does that mean? So many things. The irrelevant targeting. I got an email today from a very reputable organization congratulating me on my new job. My new job, like 6 years ago, I started eCore. Today, they're congratulating me on my new job. So I responded back and said, you're a reputable company. Let me help you. I can help you because I give my clients exactly those job change triggers. But when we give it, we also have people review it to make sure that trigger is accurate so they don't end up embarrassing themselves. So that would be one use case. The other use case would be all of us are getting emails were absolutely not relevant. Like I am a data company in, like SaaS or tech industry, and I'm getting offers to get my, like this medical devices is my favorite. to, they're offering me medical devices, and they're like, what it has to do with me, right? So relevance, right? The data became so available that everybody just buys mass data and then doing spray and pray. And that's what we are against. We are like, target properly. We can help you get exactly that little list, which is 100% your ICP match, and go after them, and then compare the results of spray and pray to the actually good data. So that's what we stand for. On the other side, we have multiple use cases. One of them is, we all know how CRM data gets outdated because nobody touches it, nobody updates. Well, yes, the reps update as they go, and now there are some tools that can help you update some of the things, but they update employment status, updating if the changes happen, like in this person might be marketing function before, but now they are sales function, right? That means you need to change that function so you segment it better for your next marketing outreach, right? Salespeople get different message, marketing people get different message, IT gets different message. So you need to properly segment all of those, right? But again, once they put the data in, they don't like updating it, and they're just adding new and new and new. Add as much as new you want to trash, all of it is going to become trash, right? And we built this flow that helps them to clean this data and maintain it clean. So it will check weekly, monthly, or quarterly, whatever cadence we set up, to monitor the people that you have. Will validate, remove all the outdated information, fill in the gaps, and then enrich everything else that needs. And then that little, and also make sure it is matching to your ICP, because if people are not matching your ICP, you don't need them sitting there. You can at least tag them as such, right? And don't use it for your outreach purposes. So we're all about quality data, and I'm really proud. And the people factor also there is that we have a combination of technology and people, of course, AI and people. And because we pride ourselves with the quality, we have to have people to review and make sure that, well, yes, AI can review it, but um, we are a people organization, and AI quality and people quality still is not the same. So we have our team review every record to make sure that every signal, every trigger, and every change is actually the real one.
I like that you said that AI is not there yet, right? You still need human intervention to make that. So do you think that is what makes your company stand apart from your competitors? There are huge names in the market right now.
Absolutely, absolutely, because we are training AI nonstop on the errors that we are seeing. But AI cannot use judgment. It just makes decision based on the data it finds, right? And it cannot add any judgment to it. So what my people question that, right? Whatever they get, the results they get from AI, they question that. And then we come up with more ways to refine the AI use. However, um, I hope AI will get there. And, if it's not, there is no problem, because we always have people to review it. And um, combination is what works the best. So AI used for speed on specific cases where it is really good, like competitive, repetitive tasks that's boring, and then put people where they need like creativity, judgment, um, and such, so they can, in combination, bring the best results. I love AI. I feel that it got us a lot of, it speed things up tremendously for us, but without people judgment, I cannot pass the quality to my customers.
I like that answer. That's really good because there is a need with AI being so fast and everything being wide coded or developed at a higher rate. It's so important to keep these real checks in place, right? That's amazing. Thanks for sharing that. That's good insight.
And I think to speak to the quantity, like the quantity qualitative quality conversation, when we're doing outreach and go to market strategies, having a smaller list, maybe those also that we've kept some form of a contact with, would also be a super helpful way to like build those partnerships or sell a product service. And having accurate information how we speak to people, because I know like I work in an academic setting, and getting people's titles correct and getting small details correctly is so important, because in a second that person can really be off put off whatever you're offering, whatever opportunity. So really, yeah, there is an opportunity to scale things really fast with the technology and building out email lists and things like that, stopping to think about how that person who's receiving this email or product on the other side is going to receive your whole organization, your brand, and everything. And sometimes it is that few seconds of an interaction. It's super important. And having the right information and the right vetted list is where it all comes kind of full circle for that touch point. You know,
Yeah,
it's really important to slow down.
exactly. And I would never want to work with anyone that sends me email that is way off, right? Like never. Because you didn't put enough effort to, if I'm your prospect, you didn't even put any effort to check me out, to understand, what I stand for, what I do. And you're just sending me some AI slop. I don't want to work with you. I myself do not do either AI or automated outbound, which is probably not the best. But if I reach out to someone on LinkedIn with some, messaging, it's me. I research that person, and I'm the one sending them the connection request or whatever message I'm sending them, right? Very targeted, like because I know exactly that's the right person. However, because we get so much irrelevant messages on, would that be LinkedIn or our inboxes, people are not reading.
Yeah.
Even relevant messages are getting lost. Though I'm still getting responses, because when someone reads, they can see that it's not. If they read, that's the thing, right? They just need to read it. So if they read, they see it's not an AI slope, and then we're starting the conversation. Um, so yeah, times of mass automate outreach is fun.
um we spoke about your professional journey, we spoke about your personal journey, we spoke a little bit about immigration on your end. I would say, what is that one most proud thing you think about when you think about your culture, right? Not just business, like what is that one thing you feel is essential to your culture and you've brought that on here and you still see that being a positive as you're interacting with people?
So being Georgian, Georgia's culture is very different from the American culture, right? So I feel that I got my foundation from Georgia, definitely. The biggest things that I'm still, actively utilizing is the love of hospitality. Georgia is a very hospitable country, and the guests, the dinners, the, people around, that's something that I grew up with. And even we had the days where in 90s, right, we had after the Soviet Union collapse and then our wars and everything, the civil war or such, we had no power and no gas, but my house was still full of people and my mom cooking dinners on a kerosene and things like that. So that kind of, the hospitality is one of the things, and together with that hospitality, the relationships, because that was not only about food, right? Like, everybody can make some food and eat, but it was relationship, because even in those dark moments where we were sitting on the candlelight, we enjoyed being together. So we enjoyed that relationship. That's what one of the biggest things I brought from Georgia, and I'm still proud of here. But US gave me like to dream big ability. right? Ability to dream bigger. Because, and again, Georgia, post-Soviet country, there are still limitations. I was always ambitious, but there were still limitations, right? It put some limitations on you. The US, that limitation was removed. Like, in Georgia, I would never think that I would live in the US, have my company, and get on the podcast and speak on the conferences and have a global team. Like, none of this were my dreams, right? So that's what US gave me, like removed all the limitations that I had.
That is a wonderful way of framing it. I think how many more, in removing the limitations, now we have AI that helps to remove some of the barriers around writing and synthesis of data and things like that. And I think you mentioned this as well. Now that some of the technical limitations have been removed, it creates a lot of capacity for us to build the human skills to get connected again, and those important things of relationship building, networking in a more meaningful way over a longer period of time, gathering together. So I think there's just a lot more emphasis now for especially younger generations entering the workplace. Yeah, there's a technical layer that's still required, but a lot more is on those soft skills, on like finding yourself outside of just a particular domain, but also connecting with others and really kind of figuring out what your passions are and how you can show up in those spaces.
Absolutely.
Um, this was a great discussion. I think we covered a lot of things. Thanks for joining us, Tamar. As we wrap up, what is that one thing you want to leave our subscribers with? Something, uh, advice, a note, something you want to sign off with?
Yes. One of the biggest things for me, right, in my life, in my career, it has always been around honesty. Now, as we know, many organizations, they just grow at any cost, right? And they're following that. And they're following that because there is a lot of pressure from investors and leadership and so on. So that honesty gets overlooked and like nobody cares about. In my experience, 6 years bootstrapping, right, where I don't have that investor pressure, I managed to stay true to my values and true to the honesty, right? I would rather go to my customer and say, hey, we cannot do this for you, rather than just sign someone, promise something, and then not deliver, right? Because I feel that I might grow slower, but I will grow with the right clients. And currently, like my clients are signed up 5 years ago and they're still with me, right? Because this honesty helps you build the right relationship on the right foot, and you can be honest and successful. Because currently it's the thinking that, oh, you cannot be both. But I want people to know that you can be both. So that would be my message to your audience. And thank you so much for having me. Really exciting.
Thanks for being here. It was so nice having you.
Thank you so much, Tamar. Thank you.
Thank you.